Какие центры имели в виду? Военные или политические? Это первое. И второе. Все-таки вот как верховный главнокомандующий, как вы считаете, эти удары по центрам, они тоже возможны орешником? Потому что же ничем другим, похоже, и не достанешь.
Знаете, в советское время была такая шутка по поводу прогнозов погоды. Вот прогноз такой: сегодня в течение дня все возможно. Пожалуйста.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, November the 28th, coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with some statements that Putin made at the CSTO summit in Kazakhstan. He was talking about the Orezhnik missile and hinted at a possible target for Russia's retaliation for the latest U.S. ATACMS strikes in Kursk that happened 2 days ago. And in his statement to the media, Putin hinted at Russia going after decision-making centers in Ukraine using either the Orezhnik missile or perhaps another surprise weapon, a different surprise weapon. Remember what I said in my video update from Budapest, that Putin said 4 or 5 days ago that Russia has more surprises, more surprise weapons other than the Orezhnik missile. So The Guardian, they have an article with the title, Putin threatens to target Kiev decision-making centers with new missile after US and UK made weapons used in Russia. President boasts that Russia produces 10 times more missiles than all NATO countries combined and threatens attack with new Orezhnik missile. Is Putin wrong? Is he wrong? Doesn't Russia produce 10 times more missiles and more weapons than all of the collective West? Yeah, he's right about that. I don't know about 10 times more, but Russia definitely outproduces all of the collective West, the EU and the US combined when it comes to military weapons. But Putin said that Russian X-101 missiles exceed European range. Iskander missiles match all ATACMS variants. Russia tests Orezhkin missiles with mass use comparable to nuclear impact. Orezhkin, Russia's ultimate weapon of destruction. Putin warns it strikes even the most heavily protected, deep underground targets. At the heart of the explosion, everything is shattered into elementary particles, turned to dust. A weapon so powerful it renders any defense pointless, turning the most secure locations into rubble. So in this statement, Putin is basically saying that look, you guys have ATACMS. Well, we've got Iskander missiles, which are better than ATACMS, and we make more of them. And now we also have the Orezhnik missile, which you guys, the collective West, you have no answer for. And in the statement, Putin hinted at Russia going after decision-making centers. Now, I'm not sure if Putin is talking about collective West decision-making centers that are in Ukraine, which we know operate in Ukraine. They've been operating in Ukraine pretty much from day one of the special military operation, or is he talking about decision-making centers for the Alinsky regime? This I don't know. He is talking about a retaliation, this second retaliation, if it does use an Orezhnik missile or something else. He is hinting at the fact that this second retaliation to the U.S. ATACMS strike into Kursk is going to be confined to Ukraine. At least that's what he was hinting at during these statements that he made in Kazakhstan. So for the time being, it doesn't look like Russia's going to be going after targets outside of Ukraine, which would definitely widen out the war, the conflict, and is exactly what the Alinsky regime is looking to do. They would like this conflict to be widened. Putin's not going to do that, at least not for now, and it looks like he's looking at targets in Ukraine. Keep the conflict confined to Ukraine. The Russian General Staff, they're looking at targets. We know this, that they're considering targets, and we also know that in the Astrakhan Oblast, in this region where the first Oreshnik was fired, the airspace in Astrakhan has been closed and will remain closed until November 30th. So a strike could be happening any day now. Could be happening today, could happen tomorrow. We don't know. And it's not a definite that it's going to be an Oreshkin missile, even though Putin is also hinting in these statements that while the first Oreshnik missile strike into Dnipro was a test strike, and the missile's now going to go into mass production, he is hinting that Russia doesn't only have one or two of these missiles, it has many of these missiles ready to go. But it's also going to go into mass production as well, which means that it's already been in mass production. When Putin said this last week that the Oreshkin is going to go into mass production, you can be sure that the missile has already been in mass production, probably for some time now. So I'm just trying to figure out what he means by decision-making centers. What do you guys think? Do you think he's talking about NATO, U.S. decision-making centers inside of Ukraine? Or do you think he's talking about going after the Alinsky regime? Going after Budanov or, I don't know, Zelensky, Ukraine military decision-making centers? We may find out before November 30th. Putin also said in his statement, talking about the Oreshkin, that it can go deep underground. It can hit any bunker. It destroys everything pretty much. Above ground and underground. Turns it all to dust. Without being nuclear, because Reuters, they ran an article today. They ran an article with the title, "Nuclear Attack Unlikely Despite Putin's Warnings, U.S. Intelligence Says." Reuters ran with this article, yesterday, November 27th. Reuters said the U.S. decision to allow Ukraine to fire American weapons deeper into Russia has not increased the risk of a nuclear attack. A series of intelligence assessments over the past 7 months have concluded nuclear escalation was unlikely to result from a decision to loosen restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S. weapons. So what Reuters is reporting yesterday is that, what they reported yesterday was that U.S. intel over the past 7 months, they were trying to figure out what would happen if Biden gave the okay for the Zelensky regime. Biden giving the okay for the Zelensky regime, you know what I mean when I say that, to launch ATACMS into pre-2014 Russian territory. How would Russia retaliate? And after 7 months of looking at everything, the intel officials, they told Biden, they said there is no risk of Russia retaliating with nuclear weapons, so go ahead and give Zelensky the green light to launch ATACMS into Russia. Give yourself the green light to launch ATACMS into Russia, and we'll run with the narrative that Ukraine is firing those ATACMS. But that's the case that they presented to Bidenopolis, and this is what convinced Bidenopolis to give the okay for those ATACMS to hit Russia. But U.S. intel, they really messed up, man, because they were thinking Nukes. Russia's going to respond with nukes, or is Russia going to respond with nukes? That's what they were kicking around, and they didn't anticipate the Orezhnik. They didn't anticipate the nut. Nope. They didn't see that one coming. That damn nut. That damn nut. That hazelnut. It evaded our intel. Yeah, so the intel officials really messed up. They really messed up on that one. They were thinking nuclear. They could not fathom that Russia had this type of weapon. 7 months of intel. And they couldn't spot the Orezhnik being developed. Not a good look for the U.S. So the Trump administration, they have Trump has announced his Ukraine envoy. And I was thinking Grinnell, Reuters, they reported a couple of days ago that Grinnell is going to be the Ukraine envoy. This was my guess. And everyone was anticipating an official announcement that Richard Grinnell was going to be the Ukraine envoy. And today we got a pretty big surprise, I would say. It's not Grinnell. It is not Grinnell. Instead, Trump, he is picking, oh my God. Trump, man, what are you doing, man? He is picking Keith Kellogg to be the Ukraine envoy. Keith Kellogg. Trump names retired General Keith Kellogg as envoy for Ukraine and Russia. U.S. President-elect Trump named retired General Keith Kellogg as Ukraine and Russia envoy. Trump, pledging a swift resolution to the war, aims to mediate a ceasefire between Ukraine's Alinsky and Russia's Putin. Michael Tracy posted on X, Trump just named General Keith Kellogg a special envoy for Ukraine and Russia. Kellogg is a hardcore interventionist, Mike Pence aide and Fox News contributor. He criticizes Biden for not arming Ukraine quickly enough and says the plan for peace is to continue arming Ukraine. Yeah. Kellogg is an uber hawk. He is an uber freaking hawk. He was working with Mike Pence. What are you doing, Trump? What are you doing? Mike Pence's aide? Really? Jeez, bro. If you don't laugh, you freaking cry, man. Telling you, man. Did you not learn about Mike Pence and all the people around Mike Pence from your first go as president? Now you have to appoint Kellogg into your administration as the envoy? Jeez, man. Doesn't learn. He doesn't learn. Anyway, yeah, he's an uber hawk. I believe he was on Fox News, and I think that was Kellogg, if I remember the segment, where he was calling for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. That's Kellogg, right? He was calling for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. It's about, I want to say about a year ago. Yeah, that's Kellogg for you. He's on record talking about further escalation and more weapons going to Ukraine, the whole peace through strength narrative. Peace through strength. We need to create more war in order to get to peace. It's nonsense, man. Kellogg is the guy, along with Fred Fleitz, I believe is his name. I think Fleitz actually wrote the document, the policy paper, but Kellogg, he was part of the policy paper. I mean, he put his name to it. That the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, they've been reporting on about a month ago, where they were saying that the Trump White House is considering a freeze to the conflict as as their peace plan to present to Russia. The whole Korea, North and South Korea freeze, West East Germany freeze. That whole plan about freezing the conflict, creating a DMZ, a demilitarized zone that's 800 kilometers or something like that, 800 miles, 800 kilometers, which will be monitored by European troops, not U.S. troops, by European troops. And what else? Ukraine does not get into NATO for 10 years or 20 years, or at least until Putin leaves the scene. That's what this paper actually says. They're going to wait out Putin. So they're going to promise to Russia that Ukraine doesn't get into NATO for 10 or 20 years. And then when Putin goes, Ukraine gets into NATO, right? Anyway, this whole, and they'll continue to arm Ukraine. They'll continue to send weapons to Ukraine. This whole Korea-Germany freeze plan is this policy paper that Flights and Kellogg put out, which was presented to Trump, and which the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and the New York Times reported on as being the possible peace plan that Trump is going to go with in order to end the conflict in Ukraine, of which the Russians have already rejected. I mean, they've rejected this idea of freezing and Korea, Germany, DMZ, European troops in Ukraine. Give me a break. I mean, they've laughed at this plan, but it looks like Trump hasn't gotten the memo, man. He hasn't gotten the information that the Russians, they don't even want to talk about this plan that Kellogg drafted. And he's going to be the envoy. So this whole thing is over before it even gets started. This freezing plan, Kellogg as the envoy, the whole thing is over before it even begins. The only positive in all of this is that at least if we can get to January 20th, at least we're going to have dialogue between the U.S. and Russia. As a special envoy, Kellogg, who's quite old, by the way, Alexander, we did a video on this with Alexander, and he noted that Kellogg is 80 years old. And this is interesting because you would think that you're going to need someone with, I'm not saying maybe Kellogg does have a lot of energy and he's ready to work day and night on trying to get peace, but this is going to be a pretty demanding position. And that's going to require a lot of energy, a lot of travel, a lot of negotiations, perhaps, maybe not. So it's an interesting pick that Trump went with, given Kellogg's age. Grinnell might have been better suited for this task. But at least we're going to get some dialogue and some communication, something that we haven't seen with the Biden White House between the U.S. and Russia. I mean, that's a positive. If you have to find a positive to all of this, that's it. At least we open up a channel of communications between the U.S. and Russia. That's it. Other than that, Kellogg is a terrible freaking choice as the envoy for Ukraine. I mean, you might as well have picked Lindsey Graham. Who's the other guy? Petraeus or Jack Keane, General Keane. Is that the guy's name? Yeah. Oh, man. I saw a tweet from Patrick Henningsen, and he said that this is a very smart observation. He said that Trump seems to be picking a lot of Fox News analysts. He's right. Patrick is spot on that. It does seem like Trump is looking at people who have been on Fox News or are contributors to Fox News, and he's moving them to his administration. Anyway, that's the Kellogg news. And yesterday we did get a big Russian missile strike into Ukraine, pretty much all of Ukraine, focused on Kiev, focused on Lviv, Odessa as well. We're talking Russian missiles, not drones, or at least not only drones, Calibra missiles from what I read, and a lot of missiles. There's some reports which claim that at certain points in time when the missiles were were being launched, and they were over certain areas in Ukraine that people were seeing up to 25 missiles like in the air flying past them at one go, at one time, 25 missiles. I mean, I've read reports which say over 100, 150, I don't know, 200 missiles. I'm not sure. We'll wait until tomorrow to get an exact count as to how many missiles were launched into Ukraine. Of course, we're going to get the Ukraine math, the creative math, which is going to tell us how many missiles they knocked down. But Russia did hit the energy infrastructure. They did hit energy targets. They hit military targets, but they hit energy targets. They hit them hard, and we do have blackouts, especially in Lviv. I believe the entire city now is in the dark. So Russia launches missile strikes with 100 missiles, say 100 calibers. And the collective West believes that with a total of 50 ATACMS and 150 Storm Shadows, they're going to change the trajectory of the conflict. They're going to force Russia into some sort of a capitulation or some sort of a surrender. In one go, in one attack, in one strike, Russia launches 100, 150, 200 missiles. That's just one go. And the Biden White House wants us to believe that 50 ATACMS or 100 ATACMS total is going to make a difference in the conflict, or is going to push Russia towards some sort of a surrender. The Economist, yesterday, they ran with an article where they tried to estimate Ukraine losses. The UK neocon Economist. They've turned on Alinsky, huh? Economist, why don't you like me anymore? What did I do to you, Economist? Podolyak, why Economists don't like me? I'll tell you why the Economist doesn't like Alinsky. The UK neocon Economist. They don't like Alinsky because the UK, at least the UK deep state, they're trying to maneuver Zelensky into the president's office. Yeah. That's why Zelensky's the Ukraine ambassador to the UK. Because the deep state of the UK, the globalist neocons in Britain, they want Zelensky gone and they want Zelensky in. So the UK Economist decided to do some digging and some reporting, and they estimated that Ukraine's losses in the conflict are not 30,000 or 31,000 that Alinsky continues to claim, but that Ukraine has suffered 500,000 losses in the 3 years of the conflict with Russia. Now, this is losses, irretrievable losses, but this is KIA as well as Ukraine troops that have been injured, soldiers that have suffered injuries and are not going to be able to return to combat. That's what the Economist estimated. I believe they said in their article that the KIAs were 60,000 to 100,000. That was their estimation. And then using other sources and by other means, they estimated another 300,000 to 400,000 injured and irretrievable losses in the conflict. So this completely smashes Alinsky's 30,000 losses narrative. It smashes it, and it humiliates Zelensky. It absolutely humiliates Alinsky, and it exposes him as being a delusional liar. Yeah, The Economist has it in for Alinsky. It was The Economist that reported last week that soldiers in the front line And commanders fighting in the front line, they don't tell Zelensky what the real situation is because they don't think he'll be able to handle it. Basically saying that he's too weak, he's too stupid to understand what's going on. Making him look like a fool, an out-of-touch fool. That's what The Economist reported on 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and now they're running another article saying that Alinsky's been lying about the 30,000 casualty number. It's actually more like 500,000, give or take. That's a huge number. It's a horrific number. But that's what The Economist reported yesterday. And on the same day, the same freaking day, AP and Reuters, they ran with a report that the Biden White House wants Ukraine to lower the age to 18, the conscription age to 18 because of manpower shortages. That is what the AP reported. That's what Reuters reported. Financial Times is also running with this story. U.S. tells Ukraine to lower conscription age to 18 to stem manpower shortage. So think about that. On the same day, on the same freaking day, you get one outlet, the UK neocon Economist, saying that the Ukraine army has incurred 500,000 irretrievable losses. And you get a report saying that the Biden White House wants Ukraine to lower the age of conscription to 18 years old in order to strengthen the ranks on the front line. Putin, in June of this year, he said, and I quote, "There is a ruling of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine made in 2015, which says it directly. A presidential term lasts for 5 years, and that's it. What are we talking about anyway? It's just that the West does not want to replace him, Alinsky, now. The time is not right yet." This is the important part. "I have already said it, but I think this is obvious for anyone. The blame for all unpopular decisions, including the lowering of the conscription age, will be put on him, Alinsky, and that's it. Then he will be replaced. I believe that all that will happen in the first half of the next year." So in 2025, Putin said this in June. In 2025, I believe he actually made this comment from Kazakhstan, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting. So in June, when Russia was talking about, this was made in the context of canceling the elections in Ukraine and Zelensky being an illegitimate leader because he canceled the elections, and he went against the Ukraine constitution by canceling the elections. And Putin was asked this question about the canceling of elections in Ukraine and how Zelensky's illegitimate. Putin made the point, look, he's illegitimate, but the U.S. continues to keep him in power because ultimately what they want is they want Zelensky to be the person that lowers the conscription age to 18. Once he does that, then they're going to get rid of him. That's what Putin said in June. And what do we have now? We have The Economist saying 500,000 losses. The Economist saying that the Associated Press and Reuters saying that the conscription age has to be lowered to 18. And why does this have to happen? Well, because you have 500,000 losses, and you need to start recruiting 18-year-olds in order to get people onto the front lines. Terrible, man. It's terrible, but I think Putin saw this coming. And Alinsky's been resisting lowering the conscription age because you know what? Alinsky also understands this. He understands that the minute he lowers the conscription age to 18, he's done. And then the UK is going to get their man as president of Ukraine, and that'll be Zelensky. So Shoigu is also in Kazakhstan, and Shoigu, he told the media that Russia's nuclear umbrella not only covers Belarus, but it covers all of the CSTO countries. That means Armenia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. They're all covered by Russia's nuclear umbrella. That's what Shoigu said. And finally, we can talk about the ruble. A lot of talk about the ruble against the dollar. It hit 114 rubles to the dollar. It has since gone down to, it has strengthened a bit to 113 now. But a lot of people are saying that this is the end of the Russian economy. The Russian economy is going to collapse. The ruble is rubble. Russia's economy is in tatters, in tatters. Someone pointed out that what Ursula actually said in her speech is not that the Russian economy is in tatters, that Russian industry is in tatters. Russian industry is in tatters, tatters, I tell you. Doesn't have as nice a ring as Russia's economy is in tatters. Tatters, I tell you, but industry, economy, whatever. It's all the same. Industry is economy. Economy is industry. Anyway, the ruble, the Financial Times is reporting, ruble slides as new Russian sanctions stifle foreign trade. Pressure on currency set to continue as curbs against lenders such as Gazprom Bank hit export payments. Now, Peskov in Kazakhstan was asked about the state of the ruble, and he said that this will not affect Russians because they receive salaries in rubles. He's correct. And Peskov also noted that in all bilateral agreements with Kazakhstan, for example, we have the lion's share in rubles and in tenge, which pleases us, which is the currency of Kazakhstan. So basically what Peskov is saying is, look, for everyday Russian citizens, this doesn't affect them one bit because they get paid in rubles, they buy stuff in rubles. They're not going to notice any of this ruble decrease or volatility. And as far as doing business with many of the countries that Russia does business with, they bypass the dollar, or they're in the process of completely bypassing the dollar. For example, Russia and Iran, they're now settling everything in their local currencies. They're not even touching the USD. You see, Russia's out of the USD system pretty much. Doesn't mean that there aren't Russian businesses that are dealing with the dollar, or there aren't Russian businesses that have loans in foreign currency or USD. But for the most part, this is not going to really affect Russian citizens, Russian people, and a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses are not going to be affected by the ruble's loss of value to the dollar. But why is this happening? The Gazprom Bank sanctions, that's playing a role because the Gazprom Bank was the only bank, I believe it was the only bank that still had access to SWIFT. And so Hungary, Turkey, they were able to purchase Russian gas via Gazprom Bank, and Biden sanctioned Gazprom Bank. So he cut off the access to settle payments for Russian energy, Russian resources in USD. Turkey, by the way, is complaining about this to the Biden White House. Erdogan is furious. Hungary, I reported on this a couple of days ago, is furious. So this is putting pressure on the ruble. The Financial Times, they noted in this article that yeah, this is going to cause problems for Russia selling energy to certain parts of the world. But the Financial Times noted, look, this is going to be temporary. Eventually, all the countries that need to buy Russian energy, that want to buy Russian energy, they're going to find other ways to buy it outside of the dollar, outside of SWIFT. So medium to long term, this is going to actually do damage to the USD. For now, for the last 2 months of Biden's term in office, he can do a victory lap and say, you see, I sanctioned Gazprom Bank. That's why he waited for so long to sanction Gazprom Bank, by the way. He didn't want to sanction them during the elections because he didn't want energy prices to go up. By the way, this is also going to cause an increase in energy prices, which is going to benefit Russia. But he didn't want to sanction them during the elections. Now that the elections are over and Trump's about to get into office in 2 months, Biden decided, okay, now we can sanction Gazprom Bank. So energy prices are going to go up. The price of gas and oil is going to go up. Russia is going to be awash in rubles, right? Because they're going to take in a lot of rubles. The ruble's going to be valued less. The ruble's valued less than the dollar. So they're going to have a lot of rubles on hand. They'll be able to pay all their salaries in rubles. They'll be able to fund all kinds of projects, to pay the weapons companies, everything. They're going to balance their entire budget now until the end of the year. And then come 2025, they'll stabilize things and they'll fix the currency rates between the dollar and the ruble. By the way, this always happens at the end of the year as well. At the end of the year, because of the holiday season, we always see the ruble lose value because the demand for imports increases for consumers as well as businesses. Consumers have money, they want to buy stuff. Businesses that do have loans in foreign currencies, at the end of the year, they want to pay off those loans. So this is also seasonal as well. But this is going to end up helping Russia in the end. Biden gets his 2-month victory lap. But come next year, Russia's going to stabilize things. The central bank already said that they're going to stop purchasing dollars until the end of the year. So they already made that announcement, but they're going to stabilize things come 2025. And they're going to have so many rubles. They're going to probably have a budget surplus, probably. They'll have a budget surplus. The price of oil is going to go up. And countries are going to start transacting. More countries are going to start transacting outside of the USD and outside of SWIFT. That's going to be the effects of this medium to long term. But Biden gets to say that he stuck it to Putin. Anyway, how are we doing on time? All right, let's wrap this video up. Let's wrap this all up. And by the way, people in Europe, people in the collective West should not be looking so much at the Russian economy. They should be focusing on what's happening in Europe and what's happening in France. Forget about the ruble against the dollar. What's happening in France is red alarm, red alert, red alert. What's happening in France? We're seeing something equivalent to what happened in 2010, 2011 with the debt crisis in Greece. That's what we're seeing play out in France at the moment. So everyone that's celebrating the ruble to dollar rate, you better buckle up because things in Europe, in the Eurozone, and in France are about to get very interesting, especially if Le Pen nukes the Barnier budget. Anyway, we have France, since we're talking about France. They have announced that they will not be arresting Netanyahu. They're not going to enforce the ICC warrant France believes Israel's Netanyahu has immunity from ICC arrest warrant. This is according to Reuters. 2 years ago, Reuters ran the article, France on ICC arrest warrant for Putin. No one should escape justice. I said this was going to happen. Germany's not going to enforce it. France is not going to enforce it. Italy said they're not going to enforce it. They're trying to find a way to not enforce it. This was completely predictable. And yes, Hungary, Orban, he also said he's not going to enforce it. This was completely predictable. Completely freaking predictable. Of course, they're not going to enforce the warrant against Netanyahu. So let's have a 1 minute as we get into clown world. Let's have a 1 minute moment of silence, everybody. Not a 1 minute. Let's have a 10-second moment of silence in this clown world segment. Because Jungle Joseph Borrell, he is stepping down as the EU top diplomat. It is official. Kaja Kallas is taking over in the next day or two. So 10 seconds of silence. Let's put our heads down. No more Jungle Joseph clown worlds. What are we to do? It's a sad day on this channel. Well, Jungle Joseph, you gave us a lot of great clown world material, and we thank you, and we're gonna miss you, man. We're gonna miss you, Jungle Joseph. We'll see if Kaja Kallas can rise up to your clown world level. Something tells me she will. Something tells me she absolutely will. All right, so I will leave the video there. I was going to do another clown world to talk about Sharon Stone and what she said, but this video is getting long. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like the shirt that I am wearing today. Link is in the description box down below. Take care.